My name is Travis Holcomb, and we are here with Three Song Story, and my guest today is Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs, who you've undoubtedly heard on the KCRW airwaves in the lead up to the release of his first album in 10 years. It's called When the Lights Go. Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs, welcome.
Thank you very much, Travis.
Right off the top, I have to ask you how, and I'm sure you've been asked this plenty of times, but how did you come upon this pseudonym, Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs?
I wanted to do something absurdist. I wanted to do something that couldn't go through the gatekeepers of culture. I didn't want Pitchfork to tell people whether to like my music or not. So I figured I'd do something that those sort of people just wouldn't ever take notice of. It was kind of like a creative diplomatic immunity, you know, like this can't ever be cool. So I'm just going to do my thing.
The funny thing is you have an amazing government name as well.
Well, I really don't like my government name.
Really? We should tell people, I mean, not everyone will know, but it's Orlando Higginbottom, which is like it sounds kind of like a cartoon character name a little bit.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty posh name. The connotations in the UK when you're called Orlando is that you're kind of from a arty family, which I guess I am. And then Higginbottom is just, you know, that caused me all kinds of problems growing up. I mean, imagine if your surname is Higginbottom growing up. It's a recipe for constant bullying, basically. But so yeah, I don't like that name either.
Okay. Well, so we'll get this thing back on track and say the idea of the segment is to try to get to know you through 3 song selections, and we asked you to bring us something old, something new, and something of your own.
Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me dio 2 luceros que cuando los abro perfecto distingo lo negro del blanco y en el alto cielo su fondo estrellado.
I heard this song for the first time fairly recently, and it really knocked my socks off, and I listened to it. It was one of those songs that I sort of listened to constantly for a week. And just the most beautiful velvet voice, one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. There is a texture to it that I haven't found the words for yet. It's so warm and caring. But I listen to a lot of music that's not in English. I'm like a huge Luis Miguel fan, and just am constantly like delving into Brazilian music and I don't know. I sort of get more out of music that's not in English for some reason. I think it's just so good, and it's like it's the record that I can like put on and look up and watch everybody get down, and suddenly people are just looking at their feet, you know, they're like, in a good way, they're just like heads down in this track, hips are low. It's been a great moment. I don't know much about Mystic Bill, like you know, I'm pretty sure he's like a Miami guy. He puts out a lot of records, he's a legend as a DJ, but I don't know him personally. But yeah, I've been loving this tune.
I feel like you're at this point as well known as like a great DJ as you are as a producer almost.
Well, that's nice. I don't know. I guess I've been slightly treading water trying to get this album that I'm putting out now together, and with that kind of getting back into the more like artist focused and singing and performing side of things. And I'm very grateful that I've been able to do all this DJing. I love it. In my head, I'm a musician. and part of it is that I get to DJ.
Never been hurt.
I remember with Crosswalk, I was thinking a lot about simplifying things and doing the obvious thing. And that morning I was like, okay, I'm going to do something obvious. And I wrote that bass line. I was like, that's almost like a childish bass line. It's a 4-note thing that you would compose when you first sit down at a piano. That was something I kind of lent into as well, was just like do the dumb thing first and then add, and then overthink it, but start from a simple point.
Why did it take 10 years between full lengths?
A number of reasons. One, I wasn't happy with the way I could release music within the music industry. I was struggling to see that I would get any kind of like financial or energetic return that felt fair to me for the work that I was putting in. I really care about fairness, like that matters to me. And I now have a deal that I think is fair. And I think that the structure I have around me is fair, and that makes a big difference to how I sleep at night. I also think that I probably was very depressed for about 4 years and had to figure that out. So I have figured that out. But I definitely lost some time there inside my own head.
What was the meaning behind the album title, When the Lights Go? Because I feel like that could be read two ways, like when the lights go on or off. It's sort of like cuts off right before there's like a concrete ending. So what was the meaning of that?
Well, what you just said, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meanings to it that I take. The title track of the album, When the Lights Go, is about it's like a new wave disco track that's about like the end of the world and when everything kind of falls apart and wanting to be with that person in that moment, holding on to some romance in the chaos. One of the big themes for me really is in this album is like love during apocalypse, to put it sort of very broadly speaking, but the chaos that we've been through over the last 3 years, and obviously it's not stopping or slowing down, and we're all feeling some kind of climate change panic somewhere inside us, but we all want to have kids and fall in love and have homes, and these two things are clashing. That's the theme of the record.
You mentioned earlier when we were talking about your name that you came from an artistic family. Are they musicians, or what kind of art do they dabble in?
My dad is a musician. Yeah, he's a conductor, and he was a professor of music at Oxford University and a choral conductor. His thing was like Baroque music, specifically French Baroque music, but he did all classical stuff. So I grew up in a house with a lot of classical music, and my younger brother is in a great band called Low Island, also obviously from the UK. So a very, very musical household. Yeah.
Have you collaborated with either your brother or your father on any of your recordings?
Me and my brother help each other out. Yeah. I give a little feedback and production stuff on his work, and he plays percussion and drums and feedbacks on my work. And as a kid, I worked with my dad all the time. I was a singer, I was a choir boy, and I did lots of recordings and touring with my dad. As an adult, we play piano duets really badly, twice a year. And that's it.
So have you ever had the itch to collaborate with your father? I mean, I'm sure he probably works with huge groups that could.
Yeah, I think there was a French promoter or a record label that wanted me and him and my younger brother to do a concert together, and we sort of had a laugh about it, and there didn't seem to be anything. It wasn't like a sort of solid idea that we could come up with. Maybe something will come. It's not something that any of us would want to force, you know, even for the sort of humor of it. We're all pretty precious about music and slightly uptight and British, so I think it would have to be, someone would have to have a very good idea.
I'm sure your dad is super proud though of the fact that, you know, his two sons are making a living in music.
He is, yeah.
And I mean, like, has he commented on any of your work? Like, does your dad have a favorite Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs track?
He knows better than that. He just encourages me, and, you know, checks that I'm doing all right, and you know, that I'm satisfied with how I'm working and how work is going. And yeah, he wouldn't give me too much of an opinion. we sort of have our debates about other stuff. During the pandemic, we listened through, by his suggestion, to all of Sibelius's symphonies and wrote each other emails about them, which is probably the sweetest thing I'll ever do with a parent. That's a good sort of ground for us to meet at and be critical. But yeah, he doesn't offer judgment on my work.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us for Three Song Story, and congrats on the new album.
Thank you very much, Travis. Thank you for all your support.
The way you